Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve. Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
We head out west to Dodge City, Kansas for an episode of Gunsmoke starring William Conrad. This episode goes back to October 31st, 1953, How to Kill a Woman.
Post Toasties, the heap good cornflake, is proud to present Gunsmoke.
Around Dodge City and in the territory on west, there's just one way to handle the killers and the spoilers, and that's with a U.S. Marshal and the smell of gun smoke.
Gunsmoke, the story of the violence that moved west with young America. The story of a man who moved with it. Nat Dillon, United States Marshal. And now, Gunsmoke, starring William Conrad.
It's a darn shame, Mr. Dillon.
Oh, what is, Chester?
Well, before long it'll be too cold to set out here of an evening.
Winter's too cold, summer's too hot. How do you like spring, Chester?
Oh, spring's all right. Up here. But I remember back in Waco, we all got the ague every spring. Terrible fever. Makes a man feel like a harp with 1,000 strings.
Yeah, I know. I've had it. That stage is mighty late tonight.
It sure is. You know, my ma had a theory we'd be immune if we ate 3 hard-boiled eggs on Good Friday.
Oh?
But if that didn't work and we got the ague anyway, she'd tie salt mackerel onto our feet.
Well, that ought to have toughened up your feet anyway.
We all survived. Hey, look. Here comes the stage driver. Why, it's Jim Buck.
Oh, yeah.
Marshal. Hello, Chester.
Hello, Jim.
Trouble, Jim?
I'd call it trouble, Marshal. Got held up. One passenger shot down in cold blood.
What?
You're the meanest thing I ever saw.
Where'd this happen?
Other side of Wagon Bed Springs, between there and Jesse Dagget's.
Dagget's?
He runs the stage station out there near the Colorado line. And I got a mighty strong feeling Jesse Dagget's in on this, Marshal.
What makes you think so, Jim?
He knew I was carrying gold. After we'd laid over an hour or so at the station, I seen Dagget talking to a man who just rode in. He's cussed-looking a gunman as you'd want.
Well, then what happened?
The fellow rode off. Left before we did.
Was alone?
Yeah, just him, with his face covered. He never said a word. He took the strong box and robbed the passengers, and then he got on his horse and turned around and shot one of them right through the head. Why would a man do that, Marshal? I don't understand it.
Well, maybe he just likes to kill, Jim. But I'll go back with you tomorrow. Maybe we can find out. We made the trip down to the Santa Fe Trail next day, through Wagon Bed Springs and on to Jesse Dagget's stage station. I sat on the box with Jim Buck while Chester rode inside with the passengers. And by evening, everybody was glad when we reached Dagget's. It was a typical road ranch with a large eating room and a row of sleeping quarters for the travelers. Jesse Dagget himself was a tall, angular man, gaunt and gray. He was quiet, but one could feel the trouble that lay inside him. The first chance I had to talk to him was in the yard after supper.
Cold weather be coming soon. I have to lay in more whiskey.
Yeah. You, had this station long?
3 years come spring. Built it myself.
Pawnees try to burn it down now and then, but I'm still here.
You plan to stay here, Daggett?
Man's plans are his own, Marshal.
I'm sorry. It was just an idle question.
It's all right.
I think I'd like it here myself. No neighbors, but lots of company passing through.
It ain't all good company.
Well, lots of people travel, good and bad.
True.
Like the man who held up Jim Buck's stage yesterday and shot that passenger.
What about him?
Well, you might call him the bad kind, don't you think?
What I think won't raise the dead, Marshal.
It might keep more people from dying, though.
I figured that's what you're doing here, looking for that fella.
Jim Buck thinks it might have been that gunman you were talking to here the day of the holdup.
That was Nat Pilcher, but I don't care what Jim Buck thinks.
Well, everybody expects a stage to get held up once in a while, but it's a different matter to shoot people down for nothing. I don't figure this man, unless he's just a born killer.
He could have a lot of reasons. Men are all different.
Yeah, sure.
All got different reasons for doing what they do, living the way they live. Guess it's what's happened to them in the past spells it out.
That's true.
I'll tell you something, Marshal, but ain't what you want to hear. I believe in letting every man kill his own snakes.
Now, this business is between whoever the bandit is and me. Is that it?
That's it exactly. Every man for himself, you might say. I won't interfere, but I won't help.
I see.
Got to be like that.
Even though a man was killed for nothing?
Let dog eat dog, I say.
Yeah. I hope you won't regret it, Daggett.
One more regret won't break me, Marshal.
Trying to get anything out of Jesse Dagget was hopeless. But I still couldn't agree with Jim Buck that he was partners with the road agent. Dagget somehow wasn't that kind of man. Anyway, there was nothing to do but wait and let things happen. 2 days passed while Chester and I sat in the eating room and played two-handed stud. Now we got mighty restless. Late afternoon of the second day, however, Jim Buck drove back with his stage. The travelers came in first, went to their rooms, and then Jim came over to say hello.
I wish I had a job like yours. Nothing to do but sit around, play cards, drink whiskey.
Well, we do a lot of thinking, Jim. That's what makes up for it.
You do, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you done any about finding Jesse Dagget's friend?
Nat Pilcher? Well, if we did find him, Jim, we couldn't prove anything.
No, neither could I guess. But you might just shoot him for luck.
You're too suspicious, Jim. He was probably just some cowboy riding through.
Maybe. There's another pilgrim for supper. Hey, where's Daggett anyway?
Well, he went outside just after you pulled in. Didn't you see him?
I was busy with the horses. And I still got work to do. I'll see you at supper.
You know, that's a hard life, driving a stage, Mr. Dillon. I don't think I'd want to do that.
Well, you might give it a try first, Chester. Now, wait a minute.
I heard there was a marshal here.
Yeah, that's right. What can I do for you?
Me? You can't do nothing for me, Marshal.
No? Well, then what do you want?
I just wanted to see what a marshal looks like. A live one.
Satisfied?
Sure.
Then get out of here.
You're touchy, Marshal. Real touchy. But I don't want him to start no trouble. I want to come in to say hello. Friendly like.
What's your name?
Pilcher. Nat Pilcher.
I thought so.
Sure. I'm a friend of Jesse Dagget's. An old friend.
Where do you live, Pilcher? You got a job around here?
I'm a cowboy, Marshal. Know anybody needs a good hand?
What do you do besides riding?
Funny. You ask that.
Is it?
You being a lawman, dear. Ever hear of Charlie Hall, sheriff over in New Mexico?
I have.
They say Clay Allison shot him. That's what they say, Marshal. But I know for a fact it wasn't Clay. Nice meeting you, Marshal. See you later.
Back before somebody figured out that Gunsmoke was not a kid's western. Gunsmoke, October 31st, 1953, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
You know, a lot of times you have to choose between something high quality or something that saves you money. But if you can get both, why not? Especially when it comes to health care. And that's MediShare. You get both. The typical family saves $500 a month switching to MediShare. And that's huge, but it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. It's because MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge PPO network, so yeah, really, you could save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. If you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. Here is the number you need. Call 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34-BIBLE. 833-34-BIBLE.
At the end of the show, I'm going to let you hear one of the post commercials that ran in the show. Not the cornflakes commercial, but the one for Sugar Crinkles. Oh, my goodness. Back to Gunsmoke, October 31st, 1953.
Jesse Dagget's stage station lay on the prairie miles from anywhere. It would be an easy thing for a man like Nat Pilcher to ride in long enough to check on a stagecoach and the value of its cargo, and then ride up the road a few miles and wait for it. But I still didn't believe Dagget was in on the deal, even though he and Pilcher had obviously known each other somewhere before. The next morning at dawn, Jim Buck loaded his passengers aboard and pulled out. Dagget and I stood there and watched the little cloud of dust as it moved up the Santa Fe Trail toward Wagon Bed Springs.
Make Dodge tonight, and he'll be back here tomorrow.
I met your friend Nat Pilcher last night, Dagget.
Pilcher rode out before supper.
Yeah, I know. Seems like he only came in to tell me what a hard case he is. To warn me about it.
It didn't have much effect. You're still here.
You don't think I scare that easy.
You're all right, Marshal. Things will work out here without you.
Dagget, I don't know what's going on down here, and if I'm meddling in your affairs, I'm sorry, but a stage has been robbed and a man's been killed, and that makes it my affair, too.
I want to thank you for not thinking I got anything to do with all that, Marshal.
Well, I wasn't sure at first, but I am now. Even so, I'm not going back to Dodge without a man.
No, I suppose you won't.
Well, let's go inside.
Sure.
You, ought to plant some trees there, Dagget. It'd sure improve the place.
Not enough water.
I'll dig for it, then. You'll never get a woman to come out here and marry you unless you've at least got some trees.
How's that?
There's no offense. I was just remarking that women like things growing around the place. Let's say I meant it generally.
No offense. I thought to have a woman here once when I first planned about running a stage station. That was over in New Mexico. Seems like a long time ago.
Oh, things don't always work out.
Yeah, I was mighty fond of her, Marshal. But I lost her. I've been a little lonely ever since.
Oh, you came close. That's better than some men do.
I don't know about that. But it is funny how a man goes right on living, even when his luck's about run out.
Yeah.
Come on inside. I'll heat up some coffee.
Good. him, Chester.
Mr. Dillon, do you mind if we don't play anymore? I'm beginning to see things.
It's okay with me. The stage ought to be here soon anyway.
And just think, Jim Buck's been all the way to Dodge and back, and we just been sitting here another 2 days.
Well, waiting's always the hardest part.
Well, there's the stage now. At least there'll be some people around here.
Yeah.
Hello, Jim.
Come out here, Marshal.
What? More trouble, Jim?
You stop me again, Marshal. By heaven, I'm going after him now if you don't. Take a look in the coach here.
Why? What's a woman? Is she dead, Jim?
Of course she's dead. She's got a bullet in her.
Where are your other passengers?
There ain't any. She's the only one this trip. Look at her, Marshal. He killed her.
And there's some blood soaking through your jacket, Jim. You hit bad?
In the shoulder. Knocked me off the box. I wasn't going to stop at all, and then he just rode up and put a bullet in her and rode off. Never said a word.
You think it was Pilcher?
Now, let's ask Jesse Dagget here who it was.
No.
Take a look in the coach, Dagget. Take a good look. Well, Dagget, what do you think of killing women? Look at him, Marshal. I told you. Did you ever see a guiltier-looking man?
You're wrong, Jim. Doesn't even make sense.
Well, he didn't do it. No, but he's in on it somehow.
Chester, I'll help you bring the woman inside, and then we'll see what we can do about your shoulder, Jim. Come on. It doesn't make sense. None at all. But I figured it would soon. And after I did what I could for Jim Buck's shoulder, Chester and I buried the woman. Put a cross over her grave. We'd find out later who she was. The rest of the night, we took turns watching for a move from Jesse Dagget. And sure enough, an hour before dawn, he saddled up and rode out into the prairie. We let him get a little start and then took a couple of his horses and followed him.
You think he's going to meet Pilcher?
If he can find him.
We must have come 10 mile already.
Yeah, about that. We shouldn't have let him get so far ahead of us, so.
Well, we're right on his trail.
Yeah, I know. Hey, what's that up there?
Huh?
Look.
What's a man?
Yeah, come on. Come on.
Where's Dagget, Mr. Dillon? He's been shot.
Yeah.
You followed me, Marshal.
How bad are you hurt, Dagget?
Pretty bad.
Pilcher?
I'd have killed him, but my gun didn't go off, and he got me easy then. No luck left at all, right?
Any idea where Pilcher is now, Dagget?
Said he was going back to the station to get you. Took my horse with him.
I'd have come with you this morning.
Wasn't your business. This was between me and Pilcher. Come here looking for a fight. I didn't want to kill anybody no more. Not even him. So he drove me to it. Finally, that woman yesterday. Knew I couldn't stand that.
You mean he shot her and the other passenger just to prod you into a fight?
Marshal, I'll tell you now about... I had a woman out in New Mexico. Nat Pilcher tried to run off with her. I didn't shoot him, though. I shot her instead. I figured it made more sense.
You killed her?
I don't think he'd have minded so much if I'd have killed him, but I figured he wasn't doing nothing I didn't want to do myself. I didn't blame him none. I blamed her. Pilcher's been after me ever since.
I could have stopped all this if you'd told me sooner.
Every man's got to kill his own snakes, Marshal. I tried. You can have him now. I ain't gonna live long.
I'm sorry, Dagget. Chester will stay with you. I'm going back to the station.
Both go. I can die alone. I ain't afraid.
No. Goodbye, Daggett.
Bye, Marshal.
Chester.
Yes, sir.
Do what you can for him.
Poor fellow.
I'll send somebody out to help you bring him in later.
Yes, sir.
It's about time you got here, Mark.
Where's Pilcher, Jim?
Out back, looking for whiskey. Where's everybody else?
It's been a busy morning. How's your shoulder?
It hurts. I gotta get up to Dodge somehow and see it. See.
Morning, Marshal.
Oh. Hello, Pilcher.
You been riding?
So have you.
Man like me rides a lot, Marshal.
You should have kept going.
I wanted to see you again before I left.
That's what Jesse Dagget told me.
I'm gonna kill you. And then Jim here.
Oh, no, wait a minute.
Shut up, Jim.
October 31st, 1953, Gunsmoke. The conclusion follows these important messages from your favorite station, Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Thanks for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox here on your favorite station. Now the conclusion of Gunsmoke, sponsored by Post Cereals, October 31st, 1953.
Pilcher, you can drop your gun belt and take your chances in court, if you like.
My chances are better right here, Marshal.
Your choice.
It's always been my choice. Except for the night Jesse Dagget shot his wife. Did he tell you about that?
It doesn't matter now.
To me, it does.
You...
No!
You killed him, Marshal.
Yeah.
You hit?
No.
What's this all about, anyway?
A woman. Jim, I'm going to hitch up the stage and drive you into Dodge.
Yeah. I'd be grateful for that.
We'll have to go out of our way some.
Oh? Why?
Daggett's luck ran all the way out this morning, that's why.
In just a moment, we'll tell you about next week's adventure on Gunsmoke. Say, Mother, want to see your small fry eat a better breakfast than ever? Well, may I suggest that you dish him up some sugar crinkles to start with? Sugar crinkles, you know, make breakfast more fun than a circus. Sugar crinkles is the sugar rice treat that's just right sweet. It's high time to forget these sugar-coated cereals that seem too sweet to you and those others that don't seem sweet enough to the kids. Just pour out crisp golden sugar crinkles and see how just right sweet a sugar-coated cereal can be. Just right sweet. Be sure to get several packages of sugar crinkles because they're great for snacks. Kids love them that way. Kids love them anyway. Try sugar crinkles and you'll love them too. Remember, new sugar crinkles is the sugar rice treat that's just right sweet. Gunsmoke, under the direction of Norman MacDonald, stars William Conrad as Nat Dillon, U.S. Marshal. Tonight's story was specially written for Gunsmoke by John Meston, with music composed and conducted by Rex Corey. Featured in the cast were Jack Edwards, Lawrence Dobkin, and John Daner. Parley Bear is Chester. Ken Peters speaking. Our freedom to worship God is a precious national heritage. Attend the church or synagogue of your choice with your family and support it actively. Light your children's life with faith. Bring them to worship this week. Join us again next week as Nat Dillon, U.S. Marshal, tracks a renegade during his fight to bring law and order out of the wild violence of the West in Gunsmoke. Listen next week at this time when Gunsmoke will be brought to you by Sugar Crinkles, the sugar rice treat that's just right sweet.
Yeah, Post Cereals only sponsored Gunsmoke from October 3rd to December 26th of 1953. Then Liggett & Myers Tobacco Company took over sponsorship from July 5th of 1954 through April 7th of 1957 for various of their products. And then it went to what was called a participating sponsorship series from 1957 to the conclusion. You had multiple sponsors, which supposedly was not a good thing, but that's how radio survived. October 31st, 1953, Gunsmoke here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, we start another 5-part yours truly Johnny Dollar story, The Valentine Caper. This was originally broadcast October 31st, 1955.
From Hollywood, it's time now for
Johnny Dollar.
Roy Vickers, New Britain Mutual, Johnny.
Hi, Roy.
How'd you like to try some Creole cooking?
Okay, what's up?
One of the bellhops at the St. Agnes Hotel in New Orleans had quite a time last night. He opened the safe and walked out with $7,500 in cash and a diamond necklace worth a cool $25,000.
So help me, Roy. I didn't know bellhops had so much fun.
That isn't all. He also stole a station wagon belonging to the hotel manager, not to mention the manager's wife.
What do you want back?
Mainly that necklace. It's the property of one of our clients. She was stopping at the St. Agnes and had it stowed in the hotel safe.
Any line on the bellhop?
Not a trace so far.
The wife?
Don't be funny. Can you hop a plane down there and see what's happened for us?
Sure, Roy.
Tonight and every weekday night, Bob Bailey in the transcribed adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to the New Britain Mutual Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Valentine matter. Expense account item 1, $175 and no cents. Airfare and the incidental costs it takes to get from Hartford to New Orleans. Once there, I was more than surprised to discover the police had wound up the whole case. The prodigal bellhop, along with the $7,500 in cash, the diamond necklace, the station wagon, even the manager's wife, had all been recovered. Everything and everyone tearful, but intact. I reported this development to all parties concerned, phoned the airport for a reservation back to Hartford, which they said would be the following afternoon, and then looked around for something to do. I found a spot on Burgundy Street that seemed to be less crowded than the others and settled down for the evening. That's where it happened. He was sitting alone, tall, gray-haired, rugged. A face full of some 50-odd years, I guessed, and full of some other things no one could guess. It was 3 drinks at the bar before I made out who he was, who he had been. A man who was once big, in a way that only Prohibition made them big. This seat taken?
No.
Mind if I sit down, Mr. Valentine?
Well, you can't be that old.
How old?
Old enough to recognize me.
Recognize you from your picture. Long time ago.
Time. I guess I could tell you more about that than anybody. You a cop?
No, I'm an insurance investigator.
You were a cop once?
Once. Can I buy you a drink, Mr. Valentine?
Damn's enough. Sure. You're doing better than the boys in the force. I've been living in New Orleans for 3 months now. Nobody's calling me.
Any reason why they should?
No. No, there isn't. But then no one's ever figured out a way to stop a policeman from making a visit when he wants to.
That's true.
That's a funny thing. There's a lot of policemen I've liked in my day. Visiting policemen. That is, on certain days. You're too young to remember much about it, Dollar, but A long time ago, a bunch of old women made a law called the Volstead Act.
Sure. Prohibition.
Everybody heard about it, including the old women who passed the law. You see, this law was supposed to be for the other guy, not for them. Anyhow, a lot of people started bottling up violations of this Volstead Act. You tired?
No, not a bit, Dan.
Well, it got me a lot of money and a lot of trouble. 13 years for income tax evasion, finally. Ended just 3 months ago, and I came here to live happily ever after. Funny.
No. New Orleans is a nice, quiet place to live. Better still, no one's bothering you.
That's the way I want to keep it. And they can pass 1,000 stupid laws, and I'm not going to fall for any of them. Everything the book says, everything in order. How's that sound?
Pretty good.
You believe it?
Yes, I do.
Then I've got my point over. I'm flattered that you recognize me, Dollar. I paid back 10 days for every one I took. Now, all I ask is that you don't ask the police to bother me.
Okay. As far as I'm concerned, Dan, you didn't even have the dinner I'm about to buy for you.
Dollar, it's nice to come out of prison and be recognized by a nice guy. Where'll we go, Jimmy Moran's?
That's where we went, and it was a swell dinner. Only Dan Valentine didn't eat much of it. He tried to smile and crack wise, but there was a sadness about him that stood in the way. I wanted to ask him more questions about those days back when, but I didn't. We dropped into a couple of other places. The Absinthe House, Joe Glorioso's. We listened to some jazz and drank Sazeracs and walked along Canal Street. Finally, we shook hands and said goodnight. Expense account item 2, $26.26. Hotel, board, and miscellaneous. The next morning, I packed my bags, checked out of my hotel, and was about to take a limousine out to Mobile Airport.
Oh, Mr. Dollar?
Yeah.
A message for you.
Oh, thanks. It was from a police officer on the New Orleans force, an Inspector DeBaca. Could I drop by before I left town? I went right over and met DeBaca, a tall, lean, gray-haired man with 30 years' service who kind of puzzled me at first.
Thanks for coming by, Dollar.
Sure.
Sit down.
What's up? The bellhop take back his confession on that necklace theft?
No. This is something else, Dollar. Dan Valentine.
Oh.
You met him about 6:30 last night. You had 2 drinks with him, and you went over to Moran's and had dinner. You went to 2 other places. You left him at 11:30.
Yeah, I also brushed my teeth when I got back to the hotel, but I bet you can't tell me what color my pajamas
Now, take it easy. Just take it easy. Maybe I'm saying this bad. He doesn't know it, but we've been keeping an eye on Danny ever since he showed up in New Orleans. Just so happened you were with him last night, and you did business with us here yesterday afternoon.
So?
We want to know if you had any business with Dan Valentine.
Don't be funny, Inspector.
Okay. Now, don't get huffy. Let me put it this way. Dan came to New Orleans 3 months ago, bought a house out in Jefferson Parish. He hired a housekeeper, bought himself a little car, took up fishing every afternoon or just walking.
Nothing wrong with that?
No, of course there isn't. We like it fine. The boys in the car drive by now and then to look at him. Just look. No questions, no knocking on the door. When we see Danny in town, we turn the other way. Just look, you see?
Sure.
Now, he doesn't have any visitors. No old pals from Chicago or New York or Detroit come to see him. He lives alone.
And he likes it. That's what he told me.
You're his first visitor. Now, I just wondered.
You wondered wrong, DeBaca.
Okay. I had to ask about it. You know how it is.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah? Okay. Right on cue. Your pal just stopped a couple of bullets.
Huh?
Danny Valentine. Come on.
According to the uniformed officer who had put in the call, a newspaper boy had found Valentine lying on the sidewalk and roused the neighborhood. One of the residents had carried him inside. The ambulance crew stood by the bed as we came in. Valentine was lying on his back, the white chenille spread under him changing to a deep red. 2 bullets had ripped ragged holes in one shoulder through flesh and bone. But he was just as self-contained as ever.
I got the idea you were going to stay out of trouble, Dan.
I didn't know I was in any trouble. Hiya, Dollar.
Okay.
You went to the police after all?
No. The inspector called me in.
About you, Dan, but let's forget that for now. How'd this happen?
This? Cleaning my gun.
You're a loser, Dan. You're not supposed to have a gun.
Oh, you know me and the law. We sometimes didn't hit it off.
Odd, where is the gun?
What gun?
The gun you were cleaning when you were walking down the street and shot yourself.
I swallowed it.
Now, look. Somebody's taken a couple of shots at you, Dan. Nobody can tell us anything about it but you so far. We don't want you murdered. Well? Okay, boys. Get the ambulance back.
Wait a minute.
You're hurt. You're going to the police hospital.
No. I've served my time and I'm clean. Being shot at even in this state doesn't make you a criminal. Dollar.
Yeah, Dan.
Do me a favor. Would you phone a private hospital and have me taken there?
Go ahead, Johnny. Take it easy, Dan.
I did as he asked. A crew from one of the large private hospitals was out there in a matter of minutes. And an hour and a half later, Dan Valentine was operated on and the bullet successfully removed from his shoulder. I waited around until he was taken to a private room, and Inspector DeBacca waited with me.
Dollar?
Yeah?
Why don't you go back to Hartford? This isn't any of your business.
I know. My plane takes off at 4. I'll be on it.
Why are you waiting around here?
Oh, to see how he is, I guess.
You a pal of yours?
I just met him last night. You know that.
But you're waiting around?
Yeah.
You want me to tell you why you're waiting around? You want to make sure he's okay. You met him last night, and outside of what you ever read or heard about him, you don't know him from a load of coal. But you want to make sure he's going to be all right. Well, so do I. Because in that room and on that bed lies quite a man.
Well, that about summed it up. No matter what he had been or what he had done, Dan Valentine was quite a man. It was the same thing that had caused me to go over to him the night before and start a conversation. The same thing that caused me to believe his plans for living a quiet life in New Orleans. He came out of the anesthetic a half hour later, and he sent for me.
Hi.
Hi. They say it's going to be okay.
Oh, sure. This is nothing. I just wanted to thank you for giving me a hand.
DeBacca could probably help you more. All you have to do is tell him who shot you and why.
I shot myself, and just for something to do.
Look, Dan, I have a fair idea of how tough things were for you and how tough they can be now. But Inspector DeBacca understands it, too. He'll do everything he can to help you. But you have to help him, Dan.
DeBacca's a good boy. You're right.
You'll tell him who shot you?
If there was any way he could help me, I'd let him know first. I'll handle this myself. Guess you'll want to be getting your airplane.
Yeah.
Good luck, kiddo.
Same to you. I went back to my hotel, picked up my bags, and took a cab to Mobilon Airport. My plane had developed engine trouble, and there was going to be a 5-hour delay. I killed time at the bar and in the restaurant and just standing around looking at the field at night. By that time, the newspapers carried the story of the attempt on Dan Valentine's life. It was as skimpy as the story Dan had told himself, and it troubled me.
Mr. Dollar.
Yeah?
Long-distance call for you from Hartford. You can take it right in there.
Oh, thanks. Johnny Dollar.
Roy Vickers, Johnny, at New Britain Mutual. Glad I caught you.
Just waiting for my plane back to Hartford now.
This story about Dan Valentine's in all the papers up here. Have you read it?
Yeah, I was in on it, in a way. Somebody shot at him today. He won't tell who. Says he'll handle it himself.
Can you find out, Johnny?
Oh, I don't know. Why?
We carry a $50,000 policy on him. If somebody's trying to kill him, we'd like to know all about it.
You mean I can stay here and work on this?
Yes.
Okay, Roy.
There'll be another intriguing episode in our story of the Valentine matter tomorrow.
Tomorrow, all the King's men that could be the New Orleans police force try to keep one man alive. And they almost do it. Join us, won't you? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is transcribed in Hollywood. Written by John Dawson, it is produced and directed by Jack Johnstone. Be sure to join us tomorrow night, same time and station, for another exciting episode of Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Roy Rowan speaking.
October 31st, 1955, yours truly, Johnny Dollar, on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. By the way, Ted over at RadioMemories.com, who has supplied us a full run of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is working on Philip Marlowe right now, finishing restoration projects on that. Also, Gunsmoke. He is also dealing with Superman. He is working on the CBS Radio Mystery Theater, which we don't play here, Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy shows, and the College Bowl quiz, and Let George Do It, and Lum and Abner. Talk to Ted at RadioMemories.com. He supplies shows on cassette, CD, or flash drive for your computer. RadioMemories.com. Visit our webpage, classicradio.stream. You can learn how building a classic radio theater collection of your own can be fun. You can also find a list of places where you can download our shows. You can also stream our shows on demand. You can find our social media links. You can contact me. And you can also buy me a coffee. That Buy Me a Coffee money helps us acquire additional classic radio collections from good collectors like Ted. That's classicradio.stream, classicradio.stream. Thanks for tuning in. Tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station.